Two old 10-speeds against the same garage wall. Both steel. Both built in 1974. Same drop bars, same tired paint, same dust. One is worth $40 and always will be. The other goes to a frame builder, takes a new chainstay for $300, and gets ridden for another 50 years. The whole difference is a sticker on the seat tube and a crank you can see from the side. Number 9. The Trek 520 and the Waterloo Steel years. Trek's longest-running model is a steel touring bike from 1983, and it is still in the catalog today. The first 520s were lugged, built with Reynolds Tubing in Waterloo, Wisconsin, back when Trek was a small company brazing frames in a rented barn. Later 520s moved to welded 130 chromoly, which is a good frame and a different animal. Check the joints. If you can see a lug, a shaped steel sleeve wrapped around the tube joint, you are looking at the early one. Here is the scissor on this bike. A clean original 520 with its rack brazons intact is a lifetime touring frame. The same frame with those brazons ground off for a fixed gear conversion has file marks in the tube wall that no paint hides, and a frame shop starts the clock at $180 just to look at it. My honest opinion. The 520 is the least glamorous bike in this video and the one I would actually own. And keep the words butted and lugged in your back pocket, because at number 7, they turn into a sticker worth more than the frame. Number 8. The Miyata 1000. Miyata drew a tube. Nobody else could copy. The company had been building bicycles in Japan since the 1890s, having started out as gunsmiths, which tells you everything about the tolerances they were used to working to. Splined, triple-butted chromoly, with spiral ribs running inside the tube wall for stiffness where the tube gets thin. On the touring models, it produced a frame that carried loaded panniers across continents and came home straight. The 87 1000 LT had full brazons, 3 bottle mounts, clearance for a 35mm tire, and full mudguards. Pull the seat post out and look straight down the seat tube with a light. The ribs are visible. That is the tube nobody else was making. The scissor here is paint. An original Miyata with its decals is a collector bike. A repainted one is a nice bike with no identity because the decals were never reproduced properly, and the model name is the only thing telling you which tube set you bought. Which brings us to the first of the 4 that belong in the trash. Trash number 1. The Bike Boom Department Store 10-speed. Steel rims, stem shifters, one-piece cranks. Millions of these were sold in the 1970s with a drop bar and a 10-speed badge, and they were never light bicycles. They were heavy frames with racing shapes glued onto them. They arrived boxed in the sporting goods aisle, next to the tennis rackets and the lawn chairs, and that is what they were. The tell is the crank. Look at the bottom bracket from the side. If the crank arms and the axle are one single bent piece of steel going straight through the frame, that is an Ashtabula, one-piece crank, and it belongs to a different class of bicycle entirely. If you would rather have the honest number than the hyped one, subscribe now. Because number 1 on this list is a frame drawn in 1951 that you can still order brand new this year. And the reason it survived is the whole point of the video. Now the honest part, because I know what these bikes mean. Somebody's first 100 miles happened on one of these, and no list changes that. But the money never works. A frame shop minimum bench charge is $180 before anybody picks up a torch. The bike is worth $40. You cannot spend $200 to save an object worth $40, and pretending otherwise is how people end up with a shed full of scrap. Ride it if it works. Do not restore it. Number 7. Raleigh, Nottingham, and the most important sticker in cycling, Reynolds 531, launched in 1935. The name is the recipe, roughly 5 parts manganese, 3 parts carbon, 1 part molybdenum. Between 1958 and 1991, it was under 26 Tour de France winners. Raleigh's Nottingham-built bikes, the competition, the international, the professional, are the easiest way most people will ever own that tubing. Now go and find the decal on the seat tube and read the small print. This is the single most valuable 90 seconds in this video. Some frames say butted frame tubes, forks, and stays. That is the full tube set, 531 from end to end. Others say frame tubes only. Same green and gold sticker, same brand. Cheaper fork, cheaper stays, and often several $100s of difference between two bikes that look identical in a photograph. The competition and the international carried the full set. Plenty of cheaper Raleighs from the same years carried the short one, and they were sold in the same shops on the same day to people who never read the sticker. One line of small print. That is the whole gap, and it is the gap the next three bikes are built on. Number 6. The Peugeot PX10. Slow down for this one, because there is a person in it. In 1975, Bernard Thevenet ended the reign of Eddie Merckx. He did it on a Peugeot, in the white jersey with the black checkers, on Reynolds 531, and the bike your neighbor has under a sheet is the shop version of that frame. The frame is the good news. The parts are the argument. Peugeot used French bottom bracket threading, French seat post sizes, and simplex derailleurs with plastic bodies that go brittle with age. Owners crack one, discover the replacement is French only, and give up. So here is the honest scissor. A PX10 with its original simplex and Moffat parts alive is a museum piece. The same frame with a snap derailleur hanger is still a 531 frame, still worth building, but you are now shopping in a parts market that closed 40 years ago. Buy the frame. Expect a hunt for the rest. Trash number 2. The bonded aluminum and steel frame. Here is the crack, and it is a real one. Through the 1980s, Raleigh built the Technium series by gluing aluminum tubes into steel lugs with an aircraft adhesive. Other companies did versions of the same thing. On paper, it was clever. Light tubes, familiar shapes, no heat distortion. Then, two problems arrived, and neither one shows up in a photograph. The first is corrosion. Bonded joints in hard winter use failed on some frames, and owners have reported tubes that could be turned by hand inside the lug. The second is worse. If a lug is damaged, you cannot braze it. The heat destroys the glue holding every other tube in the joint. That is a bicycle with no repair path. It does not matter how good it feels on a Sunday. When it goes for good, and nobody on earth will take the job. Number 5. The Bridgestone RB1. The company that made it killed the entire division in 1994. That is why it costs what it costs. Grant Peterson ran Bridgestone's American operation, and he refused almost everything the industry was doing. Ishiwata quadruple-butted tubing, classic Italian geometry, cheap reliable parts on purpose. The RB1 beat bikes that cost hundreds more, and it embarrassed people who had paid for the logo. Bridgestone Japan shut the American division in 1994. Peterson went and founded Rivendell. The RB1 became a cult object the same week it stopped existing. Clean examples sit around $650 when they surface, and they do not surface often. Run your thumb along the seat stay caps and look at the paint. These were finished properly. By now you have probably worked out the rule of this list. Steel can be fixed and glue cannot. That rule is correct, and from here it stops being enough. Because the next 4 bikes are not on this list for their tubing at all. They are here because somebody is still alive, still in a workshop, still willing to touch them. Number 4. The Schwinn Paramount. America built one great racing frame in a roped-off corner of a factory in Chicago. The Paramount was made in small numbers in a partitioned area of the Chicago plant by the most skilled builders in the building, with double-butted Reynolds 531 and Campagnolo parts, while the rest of the factory turned out heavy mass-market bikes by the trainload. Turn the bike over and check the bottom bracket shell and the head badge, because the Chicago frames and the later ones are not the same animal at all. And this is the widest scissor in the whole video, on the same model name. Pre-war and wartime Paramounts in nice original condition trade in the region of $1,500 to $3,500. The 1980s and 90s production examples trade for $200 to $800. Same badge, same name on the down tube. 10 times the money, decided entirely by which room the frame was built in. Schwinn carried that name from 1938 into the 2000s, through Chicago, then Wisconsin, then a licensing deal, and almost nobody selling one on a classified site knows which era they're holding. Ask the seller for the serial before you ask the price. Trash number 3. The glued carbon tube frame of the late 80s. Vitus patented heat-activated epoxy bonding of aluminum tubing into cast lugs in 1978. The 979 frame arrived in 1979. The carbon versions followed, the Plus Carbone in autumn 1983, then a frame with all 9 tubes in carbon in 1986. I want to be fair here, because these are lovely bikes. Sean Kelly one-on-one. They ride softly and they weigh almost nothing, but there are owners who crashed one, pulled the frame apart afterwards, and found joints that had never bonded properly at all, tubes that came out of the lug by hand. 40 years later, every one of those joints is 40 years old, and there is no way to inspect a glue line from the outside. The ride is not the problem. The absence of any second chance is. And notice what just happened to the rule. 2 of the 4 bikes in the trash pile are not bad bicycles at all. They are good bicycles with no way back, which is a completely different accusation. And it is the accusation that decides what you should hand your money to. Number 3. Mercian, Derby, England. This one is on the list because the phone still gets answered. Mercian was founded in 1946 by Tom Crowther and Lou Barker in Derby, and the frames are still cut, brazed, filed, aligned, and painted by hand in the same city. The business went into voluntary liquidation in May 2024 and was bought within weeks by 4 cyclists who refused to let it disappear. Here is the part that matters more than the paint. They take in steel frames for restoration and refinishing, and not only their own. That is what last forever actually means. Not that the metal is magic. That there is a bench, a torch, and somebody who will quote you $360 to replace a down tube instead of telling you to buy a new bike. Look at the seat stay tops. The curly hand-cut Vincitor lugwork is the signature, and it takes hours that no factory can price. Number 2. The Colnago Super. Released in 1968, and Colnago kept building it for more than 20 years. Columbus SL tubing, short and stiff, and it became the frame of the Mercex era. Mercs rode Colnago in 1971 and 1972, then moved to DeRosa in '73, which is exactly the detail sellers get wrong when they call a 1978 frame a Mercs bike. Check the head tube for the club, the little clover leaf, and look at the lug cutouts, because the shapes change through the years, and they date the frame better than any receipt. The market is honest about condition on these. Recent listings have put a bare 70s Super frame set around $795. A complete 1974 bike with Campagnolo Nuovo record has been listed at just over $1,500, twice the money, and the difference is a set of parts that were bolted on with an 8mm spanner. Trash number 4. The second-hand carbon frame with no history. This is the one on the right of the thumbnail, and this is the one people are actually about to buy. Let me be exact about what I am saying and what I am not. New carbon from a shop with a warranty and a crash replacement policy is the fastest, lightest thing you can ride. That is not in dispute. The trash is the used one that arrives with no story. Carbon damage hides. A frame can take an impact, look perfect, and carry a delamination inside the layup that no inspection by eye will find. Specialists use ultrasonic scanning because your eyes and your bike shop cannot do it. The numbers are brutal. Some shops charge a $150 assessment fee, just to give you the quote. Then, $380 to $500 to repair. On a used frame that cost you $800, you have spent the value of the bike to find out whether the bike is a bike. And no, none of this is an investment. Bicycles are not investments. Steel just gives you a machine you can keep, and the market politely ignores it. Number 1. The Cinelli Supercorsa. In 1951, Cino Cinelli and his frame builder Luigi Valsassina built a road frame for Valsassina's friend. The friend was Fausto Coppi. Coppi was the first man to win the Tour and the Giro in the same year, and he did it twice. He held the hour record. He was a world champion, and he won Paris-Roubaix, Milan-San Remo, and Lombardia. The frame was built for him, not for a catalog. And that frame never really stopped. The sloping cast fork crown. The slim fastback seat stays bolted twice at the top. Internal cable routing for the rear brake, which Cinelli was doing in the late 1970s, while the rest of the industry called it a modern idea 40 years later. The spoiler bottom bracket shell, patented in 1984 to stop condensation collecting inside the frame. And in January 2026, Cinelli put it back on sale. Double-butted Columbus SL tubing, the original lugs, 17 sizes, from 48 to 64 centimeters, in 8 colors, 1,830 grams for the frame, 3,150 euros. 75 years after Coppi, you can order the same bicycle new, and the workshop that builds it is a walk away from the factory that draws the tubes. That is the payoff I promised you at the start. Not a bike that survived, a bike that never had to. Here is what all 13 of these come down to. Age never made a bicycle last. Neither did the badge, and neither did the price. What made a bicycle last was whether anybody could still fix it, and steel has kept that promise for 90 years, while 3 different glued technologies came and went. Fit still beats all of it. A 531 frame in the wrong size is a wall ornament, and a shop that measures you properly is worth more than any tubing sticker ever made. But a frame that fits and can be repaired is the only bicycle that genuinely has no expiry date. And that is the entire argument of this video in one sentence. So before you sell anything, go and pull the sheet off the one in the garage. Find the seat tube. Read the small print on the decal. That sticker will tell you more in 10 seconds than the head badge tells you in 10 years. Tell me in the comments which frame is on your wall and whether the decal says frame tubes only or the full set. And if a 75-year-old design still being built new sounds strange, wait until you see what the vintage road bike market has quietly done to prices this year. Because there are 13 bikes now worth more than the carbon bike that replaced them, and some of them are sitting in family garages right now. That video is on the screen right now. Click it, and I will see you inside.